Hello everybody, I'm Corey and we're talking Manpower. Today I've got an extremely special guest with me. I've got Dr. Robert Steinrauf. He's the Director of the Plans and Resources Directorate here at the Deputy Chief of Staff G1, and he's a distinguished member of the Senior Executive Service. Dr. Steinrauf, thank you very much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So can you talk to me a little bit about how you use Manpower analysts and their products on a day-to-day basis?
Well, one of the jobs that I have is I'm responsible to develop the Manpower program for the entire Army. And when you think about the scope of that, it's about a $40 billion endeavor per year just for the active component soldiers. And the reliance I have on a day-to-day basis for programming purposes, we have to figure out what that force is going to look like. A key component of that is having the manpower analysis to look at end strength over time and to look at the life cycle of soldiers as they move through the process, because we have to get it right. And then the other part of that is on a day-to-day basis, we're looking at what we're actually executing and paying soldiers so that we can ensure we have sufficient funds to keep the soldiers paid. And it goes beyond just the soldiers, because we also look at the civilian aspect of that and at what is our strength levels, what's the projection, where do we think we're going to be, because you want to make sure you have the appropriate amount of money to cover the requirements to pay salaries, and you don't want to have extra, because if you do, some people will take your money, generally Congress or the Office of Secretary of Defense, and they'll spend it elsewhere. And if you don't have enough money, then we have serious problems in trying to make sure we can accomplish what we need to by having the right individuals, the right civilians in the right positions. So pretty much we use manpower analysis work on a daily basis to look at where we are and where we're trying to go in the future.
So what are your impressions of the CP26 program, its careerists, and its interns?
I've been very impressed with the CP26 program. It's one of the better programs that's in the Army as a career program in terms of bringing on talented folks, working to make sure that they get the proper development as interns and that they have high value to their commands. I know Burl does a great job of reaching out and touching commands to ensure that as they bring interns in, that they're properly trained, that they get experience at different places, and at the same time that the more experienced workforce is properly educated, they get the opportunities to go out and do those things. And I think we've really seen an uptick recently as we're drawing down the Army of interest in what the CP26 analysts do, because trying to figure out, as we're looking at headquarters, as we're looking at organizations, how do you manage those manpower issues, both military and civilian? And I think a key credit of that is the quality of the work that you do, and just the importance of it is to running the Army on a day-to-day basis.
So I know you touched on this a little earlier, but let's just touch on it again. So why are the analysts so critical to the PR Directorate?
Because we don't know what the future holds. We have to have some way to plan that. And without having people that understand the structure, how manpower changes, what the rules are, and how you can manage that manpower and do the planning, we're pretty much going to get it wrong. We rely on the manpower analysts to ensure that as they look forward, what are the plans? And the Army is a very dynamic organization. It's always in a process of change. We're trying to grow certain capabilities in one area. We're being reduced by efficiency requirements in another area. But in order to do that properly, you have to understand how you can move your manpower around, what type of manpower you need. And so it's really monitoring and helping plan the day-to-day basis for both the larger Army and within the organization itself, as we've been hit with a couple of headquarters reductions that have come about, looking at being more efficient, or in some cases just being leaner, and at the same time being able to accomplish the mission, because you want the right set of skills for the people that you have in your organization.
So let's switch gears a little bit here and talk a little bit about leadership. I know you're a big proponent of leadership. So what in your mind constitutes a leader?
Yeah, for the leader, and I'll break it into two different areas, and I would actually refer you to the leadership manual that the Army has, the field manual, because it's very good, and it talks about the unit leader. It's a small unit, and it's very important that that individual is positive motivation that they're showing people how to get things done, and it's very hands-on focused of accomplishing tasks. But you have to be proficient in what your tasks are. You have to know your jobs, probably in some cases better than the soldiers or the civilians that are doing them. But you have to be able to bring people together, motivate them to get it done, and drive them to getting the task accomplished. A lot of it is about knowing who your people are, because we don't get to pick and choose who we want on the team. Many times we get a team, we're put in charge of a team. Some people have strengths in one area and not in another, and you have to figure out how do you blend those together between those that are strong in one special area, so that they can not do all the work themselves, but they can do the work and help train somebody who's not quite as strong. So linking folks together. The leader is responsible for pretty much making sure that team stays on task, that it's motivated to do what they might not otherwise want to do, and really building a sense of community and organization in which people, commit to the team, that they want the team to be successful.
So what is the difference between a good leader and a bad leader? And is it possible to learn from both of them?
Some of the best things I've learned are what not to do when you're in a leadership role, and those are from leaders that have tried to do it all themselves. They become the central point of failure that all actions have to go through, versus those that push responsibility down, empower your subordinates, and tell them, I'm holding you to a standard. I'm going to use positive motivation to get you to do what you need to do, and I'm going to hold you responsible. But we have to expect our subordinates to do better and have to be able to be professional and do their jobs. As a leader, you're there to make sure that they do that. And if they can't, then you try and facilitate helping to get them to the point they're able to do their job. It becomes important because given you have to develop your team, you have to create an organization. You can't just bring the best and the brightest in and expect them to operate. You have to have a team that knows how to work together. In the unit, the leader that's doing that has to have the vision of what needs to get done, and also has to be willing to get in there and help. A leader who just directs, and I like to make a distinction between leadership and management. With leadership being the motivation, the vision, the taking care of people, knowing your people, understanding and motivating them is one part of it. Then the manager on the other side is allocating tasks and resources, and it's all about organizing and getting the work done. But leadership really comes down to it's about people and getting those people to be the best that they can be and to contribute to the team, putting the team ahead of themselves and looking up to the leader. The leader at a smaller unit has to be out in front and leading the folks. He has to be looked up to in terms of, he or she has to be looked up to in terms of, this is important, this person knows how to do it, I want to emulate them. And there's also the whole issue of putting the others that you serve, or that you lead, before yourself. And that becomes important as well, servant-style leadership.
So what's your leadership philosophy?
Well, I'm at a different level. A lot of the folks that we run into on a day-to-day basis are mostly small organizational leaders, and they're trying to get specific tasks done. I've kind of grown over the years, and now at the executive level with a lot of leaders that work for me. My job is to make sure that they're encouraged and motivated, that the employees feel part of the organization, that they understand their role and how important it is what they do, so that they want to get the work done. I have to know enough so that I can ask wise questions in ways that help them, that challenge them to help develop them. I have to also be able to clear roadblocks out of their way, because a lot of times, especially in the Department of Defense, Department of the Army, and the Pentagon, there are times that people can't get things done because of the rank structure, or there's other folks that don't want to help them out. So I find one of the things that I'm able to assist with is if an action officer is having difficulty trying to get something accomplished, I can sometimes help nudge a boulder off the road or crack open a door and let them work. So my job is to try and make them successful. Set the conditions so they can do that.
So what advice would you give a person in the CP26 community, a careerist, an intern, a Manpower analyst, who wants to grow and develop their leadership skills? What advice would you have to them?
But the most challenging thing you'll have to do is you have to be able to, one, lead yourself. So in order to do that, you have to understand who you are. So seek feedback from other people in those areas where you have strengths and also those areas where you have some weakness. And focus on making your strengths better and using those and playing to those as much as you possibly can, and recognizing where your weaknesses are and trying to figure out ways either to reduce your areas where you have some type of inability, or figure out how to mitigate that by having someone else do it, passing those types of tasks off. If you're not a great person in the analytical piece, and you may find that you need to find some people that have that great depth of knowledge of the analysis portion, and if you're better at the integration, then that's a great opportunity to be a leader. At your level, as an intern, your challenge will be twofold: leading your peers, and you'll be put into charge of groups and bringing them together and providing purpose and task and assigning work and critiquing as well. And also you'll find, because you'll sometimes be the person that knows most about it, is leading those that are senior to you in a way that they're willing to follow you because of your expertise, and to be able to shape the situation as it's developing, the discussion, the problem that you're trying to solve, and work them to a solution. A lot of what you get in terms of becoming a better leader is put yourself in a leadership position. You can start lower risk, but you need to challenge yourself. If you're fully comfortable with the task you've been given, you probably need to go ask for a more challenging task and to do that. Now, one of the things that would be useful as you develop is don't just work one area in the same organization forever, because you'll be very comfortable and you'll grow into the space of that one organization. At some point in your future, if you move to another organization, you're going to find out a lot of what you did and you thought you were really good at was just because it fit well in that environment. So you have to be somewhat adaptive. So take the opportunity to go to other organizations, learn how they operate. You will observe other leaders, find out the ones who do really good, and see what makes them tick and how they interact with people and how they think about problems. And also look at those that aren't so good and find out where they run into problem areas, where their weaknesses are, and then reflect on how could I do better, how could I be more like the people that I see out there.
So it's kind of, a self-reflection, continual learning, and kind of checking an ego at a door, because sometimes you have to understand, yes, I'm strong in this, but I'm not as strong as this, and using your team to help develop your skills as well as trying to get the mission done.
Right. And as you start to gain in rank and seniority and responsibility as a leader, you know less and less and less about the entire breadth of your organization. Everyone in there probably is more of a subject matter expert than you are. Your job as a leader then is to understand enough so that you can converse with them, you can take what they do. You have to have a good sense of what they do. You don't have to know how to actually fill out the forms, but you have to understand the issues they deal with. And part of that comes from sitting down with the folks that you lead and say, show me what you do. And if you think it's beneath you as a leader to sit down with one of your folks and say, walk me through what you do on a day-to-day basis, then I think you have the wrong idea, and you won't be as effective. But when you understand what your subordinates do and what their jobs are and what it entails, it works out pretty good. Now, you may cut this out or not, but I have a theory, a theorem, a corollary, and a lemma. And basically the theory is that nothing is impossible for the person who doesn't have to do it. Now the corollary is, to the uninitiated, the simple is hard and the hard is simple. The lemma is, the boss is usually uninitiated. So be very careful whenever you get to be in charge that you don't sign your folks up to do the impossible by saying, that's easy, not a problem, we can do that.
Well, I think that's very good advice, Dr. Steinrauf, but I'm unfortunately quite a few years away from leading people. But again, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today about leadership and how you do things on a daily basis.
Well, you're not as far away from leading people as you might think, because every day whenever you go talk to someone else who doesn't know what you do for enforced management, they're looking to you to provide expertise, and they're going to rely on you. And that's much of what leaders do, is they provide that expertise and vision and instilling confidence in their subordinates. So that's where you start having to lead your peers, and you lead those that are in positions over you, because you're taking them to the right point and getting them to understand key complex issues, and at the same time how to work toward a good solution.
Well, Dr. Steinrauf, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us here on Talking Manpower.
You're welcome. I look forward. If you have any questions, feel free to drop by or give me a call anytime you want to.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.